So, the field of peace linguistics has been emerging with more and more interest in the last 5 to 10 years, although it's been talked about for many years before that by some linguists, educators, and peace practitioners. Recently, though, I like the definition that Jocelyn Wright put together, which combines a number of different streams of peace linguistics. So she says an interdisciplinary field guided by the goal of promoting peace and peace building through systematic study, deliberate teaching, and conscious use of languages spoken, written, and signed. So you can see it's a very broad definition that pulls together different aspects of peace linguistics that have been developed and explored over the years. And the key goal of promoting peace and peace building connects to the fields of peace studies and peace building studies with its own rich discipline and history and development as well. So, how do we think about this very broad topic from a language perspective? Well, I'd like to invite you to a simple task, a reflective task, using the framework that I put together to think about different aspects of peace linguistics in our communication. So, I invite you to think about a conversation that you had recently. You can think about who was there, where were you having the conversation, what time of day was it, what were you talking about, how did you feel during the conversation, what was around you, what had just happened before the conversation, what was happening after. How do you feel now when you think about that conversation? Holding this conversation in mind, we can look at each aspect of peace linguistics and consider, in my conversation, who was I communicating with? Was I communicating with someone that I consider part of my in group, someone who is us? Was I talking with someone who I categorize as them? Is this a situation of polarization? What are our identity connections with each other? In your conversation, what were you expressing to each other? Was there a sense of respect, an acknowledgement of difference? Did you feel a sense of dignity for self, for the other? Were there sense of any kind of violence or injustice or power over one or the other? In your conversation, which kind of issues were you talking about? Were you talking about needs that needed to be met? Some problem to solve? Were you making plans for doing things better? Were you finding enjoyment and joyfulness in your conversation together? Where did your conversation take place? What was the physical space around you? What was your connection to the land, to the community, to the life that was around you in that space? Did you have an awareness of that when you were speaking, or was that not part of your conversation? When did communication happen in your conversation? When did you speak? When did the other person speak? What factors made a difference in choosing when you spoke or when the other person spoke? Were there examples of power imbalance or privilege that impacted who spoke when? Or was there a sense of cooperation and awareness of how turns were being taken? Why did you have this conversation? Were you trying to deal with or de escalate some kind of conflict situation? To deal with some kind of violence? Or were you trying to transform the relationship, trying to connect with another person to build an established foundation for the future of the relationship? And how did the communication take place in your conversation? Was there any shaming or judging or blaming that happened? Did you notice compassion or caring? Was there empathy or expression of care in your conversation? Thinking of your conversation and reflecting on each of these questions, how are you feeling now about this? What do you think could have been different in your conversation? Do you feel like your conversation was promoting peace and peace building in your use of language? If yes, why? What made it feel like that? What made it connect with peace for you? And if not, what factors led to that? How do you understand what could have happened or what you'd like to do differently next time? So, this simple reflection can be one way for us to start thinking about peace linguistics on a very practical level instead of only in the abstract. So, thank you for trying this task, and I hope that we can explore more about peace linguistics together.